中方对此强烈不满，坚决反对。
So what is this all about? We will see more of the video later in this video as a better explanation. But first, I want to highlight one thing. Under the Dalai Lama, not all Tibetans were allowed to study. In fact, the majority was not allowed. Over 90% was denied proper education. Under the CPC, all Tibetans were allowed and are allowed to have an education. But for now, let's get a move on. It is about the EU Parliament calls on China to abolish Tibetan boarding schools. Hello! Do you guys know you have no authority in China anymore? We are living in 2023, not during the Opium Wars time, when you forced China to do all sorts of things that was no good for China and its population, that included the Tibetans and the Uyghurs, but somehow you didn't care. At that time, you actually destroyed China for the Han Chinese and for all other ethnic minorities in China, including the Uyghurs and the Tibetans, for who you claim to care all of a sudden so much right now. And now China needs to listen to you again? They did it way back. It didn't go that well. China was totally destroyed. My question is, who do you think you are? Now, mind you, I am half European, but very ashamed for these incompetent people, the unelected US vassals that are running the show here in the EU. The EU is not even capable to run the EU, let alone run China. I mean, let's face it. China is doing better now than the EU is, so it is kind of the master listening to the pupil. Does that make any sense? If not, then maybe it's time to shut up and fix Europe. That is what you're supposed to do. Give China a good example before you start to lecture them. Because now your lecture comes from an inferior standpoint. So it holds no bearing at all. In fact, it makes us Europeans look extremely arrogant and misguided. So let's analyze what they say. Sorry, I had to let it go. The abduction of Tibetan children and forced assimilation practices through Chinese boarding schools in Tibet. Abduction in China is illegal. It doesn't happen by the state, period. There's also no evidence of that, so we can safely assume. Lie number one, in the very, very first sentence, the headlines actually. I mean, oh my God, we're in for a treat. Parliament strongly condemns the repressive assimilation policies in places throughout China, especially the boarding school in Tibet, that seek to eliminate the distinct linguistic, cultural, and religious tradition among Tibetans and other minorities such as Uyghurs. Again, that is totally false. I actually have 2 videos on that, and it will be right there somewhere. It is in the Tibet and the Uyghur playlist. Go and watch it about the schooling system, and you will see how that goes. But what they are talking about seems extremely familiar with me, and it looks very, very much like the school system in Europe. Any European ethnic minority in Europe is not taught its own language, nor are classes in their own language, nor is their culture protected or taught in school. I, MrFong, your favorite half Chinese, was forced to learn Dutch and English and German and France, but I was not taught Chinese or Chinese culture. But somehow they had no problem with that. But again, another lie. Number 2. MEPs call for the immediate abolition of this authoritarian system imposed on children in Tibet. Oh, that sounds really nice on the heart. Good job, propaganda machine. And the practice of family separations as highlighted by United Nations experts while urging the Chinese authorities to allow the establishment of private Tibetan schools. Wow, so school is now authoritarian. Do we have boarding schools in Europe? Oh, we do? But those are not authoritarian? Those are not separating children from families? Are the ethnic minorities taught their own language? They're not? But that's not erasing other people's linguistic and all these beautiful words. No. I mean, seriously. So the EU is erasing other linguistics and cultures, according to themselves. I mean, if you apply the same logic to Europe, that's happening right here. Anyway, arguing that efforts to forcibly assimilate Tibetan children violate international human rights law. Well, what the EU names forceful assimilation is exactly what is happening in Europe. Oh my goodness. Ask any refugee how they are forced to learn our history and language. Otherwise, they can pack their bags and go home. But we keep silent on that one. By the way, the two videos I mentioned show and will prove to you that it is not forced in China, but a choice. So that was lie number 3. The resolution welcomes the US announcement to restrict visas on Chinese officials tied to the boarding school system in Tibet, with MEPs also urging the EU to adopt similar targeted sanctions. Well. And this is exactly why they are doing it. To sanction more, to create the consent for sanctions, or in other words, Cold War mentality. Manufacturing consent. That does nothing good for the people in Tibet, or the people in Europe, or in Xinjiang, or anybody in China. It is ridiculous. Literally ridiculous. The text recalls the importance of the EU raising the issue of human rights violations in China. I wish you had those same concerns when you were destroying China, particularly the situation in Tibet. I really wish you had the same concern when you were colonizing parts of Tibet. Yeah. Anyway, such a small text and so many lies. Now this is what China had to say about it. Let's hear it.
散布虚假信息，抹黑中国形象，干涉中国内政，中方对此强烈不满，坚决反对。我们敦促欧洲议会停止散播虚假信息，停止利用涉藏问题干涉中国内政，停止损害中欧互信与合作的言行。当前西藏经济蓬勃发展，社会和谐稳定，文化传统得到保护和弘扬，各族人民包括宗教信仰自由、使用和发展本民族语言文字的自由在内的各项权利和自由得到充分保障。西藏人权处于历史最好时期，国际社会对此有目共睹。西藏地区由于人口居住极为分散，儿童上下学路途遥远，十分不便。分散办学难以保证老师的数量和教学质量。为保障所有儿童平等享受受教育的权利，当地政府根据实际需要设置了寄宿制学校。寄宿与否，完全看学生和家长的意愿和需求。寄宿学生在每个周末和节假日以及寒暑假都可以选择回家，父母可以随时到校看望子女，也可以根据需要随时接子女回家。有关学校普遍开设了藏语文、民族舞蹈等传统文化课程，提供高原传统食品。学生在校期间也可以穿戴民族服饰。欧洲议会对西藏寄宿制学校进行攻击抹黑，恰恰是对西藏儿童受教育权的亵渎和侵犯，是对西藏人权的干扰和破坏。这些年，欧洲国家侵犯难移民权利，排外主义和种族主义抬头，轻视经济社会文化潜力以及发展权，在新闻自由、强迫劳动等问题上存在选择性和双重标准。如果欧洲议会真的关心人权，首先就应该解决欧洲自己的问题，关注加沙等地真正违反人权的行为，而不是搞双重标准、选择性忽视，将人权问题工具化、政治化。
Anyways, that was it. Please let me know in the comment section what you think of it, but please keep it respectful. We are not arrogant, uneducated, lying, uncivilized barbarians, unlike some others. This was your favorite half Chinese, and as always, have a great day.